Hey guys, coming in tomorrow for the mid-season finale of Awkward, episode 11, The Graduates, and episode 12, Hold On and Letting Go. And all I wanted from this episode, I didn't really know what it was going to be, but all I wanted was for it to be satisfying. That's all I wanted. I wanted this to be a good getaway from the show we've known Awkward to be, and a good beginning into what this show could be. Which I was hoping this episode would do very well. I was a bit worried though, because the past few episodes have not been the best. I will tell you guys that, definitely. I mean, this season in general hasn't been the best. There have been some really great gems, like Now You See Me, Now You Don't, and the big reveal, and then what was the other episode? The one where Jenna saw Matty and everything. That I can't remember the one, but you guys know which one I'm talking about. But episodes like that. But then you have episodes that just haven't been as good. And this episode was better than all those episodes. In fact, I think this was probably the closest we've gotten to classic awkward. Um, there were episodes in season 4 that felt that way, but I feel like this is just the closest we've gotten to it. I mean, I feel like we've really deviated away from what Awkward was really trying to do and how it's supposed to be a character-driven series and everything, and I think this episode was pretty perfect. I have to say, both of these episodes were pretty near perfect. There might have been a few things here and there that I think they could have done better. First of all, no Ming cameo, which is one thing I was a bit upset about, but I did feel overall this was a really great mid-season finale. It really felt like a series finale, which obviously it wasn't, because, they are coming back in the second half of the season, if you guys don't know. Most likely season 5 is their last season, though, but let me just get into this episode. First off, we're going to be talking about part 1, The Graduates, and then I'll get into Hold On and Letting Go. Basically, Jenna says she can't believe she's back with Matty, and I was a bit leery about these two getting back together, but I have to admit, that really got back to classic awkward, just the fun moments between Jenna and Matty. It reminded me how great these two are together, and how he's pure bliss, and she says she got an A- on her AP English test, then they had sex, then Matty and he and her emptied their lockers, then they had sex, then they walked in the moonlight, saw the North Star, and then they had sex, and, it just kept going on, and, I thought that was pretty funny. But she talks about how time flew by and there was only one day of high school left, graduation day, and sleeping with Maddie, just snuggling and spooning. She felt safe and secure and happy, and she tells him she wants to wake up with him beside her for the rest of her life. He says he wishes they had time before college, and Jenna says at least they have the summer. Lacey and Kevin then come in to celebrate Jenna's graduating, and Lacey does catch Maddie there, and Lacey says to relax. She knows that they're sexually active as she takes a picture of her graduation dress. She says they're cool with them having sex in their house because they're both practically adults, and Kevin says he's only semi-cool with it. Um, by the way, Lacey and Kevin were great in this episode. Some of the best stuff we've had with them in a while. Maddie comes down and tells Jenna, Jenna tells Lacey to cool it with the pictures. Lacey says this is their one and only graduation. She wants to remember it forever. Maddie says that it'll be epic, and Jenna says they're free and they're adults and they're together, and they all take a picture, and then they head to the senior breakfast, which Jenna says she was really excited about because this was the year she had gotten her shit together, which is true. I mean, season 2, seasons 1 and 2, she was finding herself. Season 3, she had that really bad, rebellious streak, and now season 4, she's pretty normal, and again, it really shows the character development that she's gone through, and season 5 has been the same way. So, Tamara's saying today is gonna suck if the class gift won't get there. And the Tamara we get in this episode, this is classic Tamara. I loved this side of Tamara. Jillian Rose Reed had every side of Tamara in this episode. You had that rebellious side of Tamara that we have been getting. You had that kind of like more mature, level-headed side that we've been getting. And then we have fun Tamara as well. And I love seeing all of it. That's why Tamara is back to my favorite character. It's taken her a while, but I think she's back to my favorite character. She was just so great in this episode and had some of the best stuff by far. She's freaking out because she's worried about the class gift because everyone was going to get it, and she says this is their entire high school legacy engraved only onto one piece of granite, and she says they did all the work picking it out, and says the lemon squares are subpar at best. And Sadie says this is a warm-up for her valedictory address, and she says she's about to tell all the lowlifes exactly what she thinks of them, and that's going to take some time. And Val's at the breakfast in rollers and in a bathrobe, and Val is acting like she's going off to the prom, like she's freaking out here in this episode, which I really love seeing. Val's been a character that I feel has been a bit underused lately, and this episode, which she was not underused at all. She was fantastic in this episode. I loved everything they did with her here. Val asks Sadie what Sadie is doing here since the breakfast is only for seniors participating. And of course, I was wondering that too. Why is Sadie back? I mean, she was banned from graduation. And Val tells her to go home. She needs a day to be perfect. Sadie says her obsession with their graduation ceremony is pathetic. And if she wants this day to be perfect for them, they need their valedictorian in her speech. And she says she can't leave right with her last strength and dignity or be kicked out or be dragged out. And Sadie has probably her biggest meltdown we have ever seen on this show. She's throwing food, she's yelling insult to people, she's breaking, I think, cash registers. I mean, she's going insane. She's obviously kicked out, and awesome stuff there. I really liked it. They really did a great job. This episode was really Sadie's episode. The second episode was more everybody's episode, but this was very much Sadie's episode, which I really liked seeing. So Theo and Cole are then flying a plane, which ends up becoming a very important scene. They're planning on using it for graduation hijinks. Sadie walks in front of it and tells him to get it away from her. Theo says it likes her, and Cole asks if she has a nose hair, and she says she will crush them if they ever come near again, which they won't because this is the last time they'll ever see her on campus. And I don't think we're going to see Theo and Cole after this season. I'm fine with it because I gotta admit to you guys, their characters are getting a bit annoying. They're getting a bit redundant, a bit annoying. I get that they're not supposed to give a shit about things and that they're kind of just there, but I hope we don't see them again after the season. They've been fun, but, you know, they haven't been the most compelling of characters, I will say that. So Tamara says that Val's being so harsh. She's actually on Sadie's side, you know, even though, you know, she doesn't necessarily agree with Sadie, she's on Sadie's side. And Maddie says she should be. It's really unfair. And Lissa says she knows Sadie can be very mean and critical, but it's just her way of being nice. And Jenna says it didn't sound like her speech was going to be. And Tamara then gets the text that the bench is there and goes with Jake to get it. However, and I love the bonding with Tamara and Jake. This really felt like classic awkward. No Gabby in this episode. Thank God Gabby was gone. Not that I wasn't hating her character. She's not Eva, okay? No one will ever be Eva. No one will ever be as bad as Eva. They're never going to introduce a character as bad as her. Okay, the show can't get worse than Eva. It just can't. But I will say Gabby was getting there. She was getting really annoying, and I'm happy that she's gone. I'm happy that we didn't even see her in this episode. Because who cares? Honestly, who cares about her? So she goes with Jake, and it says the ass of 2015 rather than class, and we realize that it's actually Tamara's fault. She actually had a misspelling, probably just in her, you know, really want to get it out quickly, and her wanting to do things really quickly, and not checking the autocorrect, and basically she typed ass of 2015 by mistake, and obviously she's freaking out. Very funny stuff here. But Matty then tells Jenna it was his flask, and he has to tell Val because Sadie shouldn't take the fall from him. I have to tell you guys, at this point, I thought the episode was good. I didn't think it was amazing. There was a part in this episode where really I'm like, okay, this is a great episode. Jenna says that Val is on a tear, and she should tell. She's bound to be more lenient on alcohol infraction if she knows it was one of her boyfriends. He says she doesn't have to do that. She says he was the best part of her high school for her, and they need to graduate together. She tells him she's got this. She goes to see Val, who we realize is so high-strung because of Will. She doesn't want Will to see her like this. She asks her how she looks, as she does not want to look dated in the pictures 10 years from now. And Jen says she doesn't think anyone's really going to be looking at her nails, and she tells her she must know everyone's really upset about Sadie not walking. Val says she's not upset about it, and Jen tells her the flask wasn't Sadie's, and that it was Maddie's. And this is the worst thing that she could have done because Val tells her right away that Maddie's banned too. And Jenna tells him that she's an idiot, and she tells him what Val said. Maddie says it's not that big of a deal. He will see her after. I like how cool Maddie was doing this. You know, he's like, you know what, who cares? You know, it's just graduation. He doesn't really care. And he says if she missed graduation, she'll regret it for the rest of her life. And again, you really see how great of a friend he is. Yes, I say friend because I think Maddie and Jenna are really good friends. As a couple, they're really great. I will say that. I definitely will say that. But I feel like we've just kind of moved past that. And I think this episode showed that they're really great. But definitely the second part, you do see that we've kind of moved past that. So then we get to the really great stuff in this episode. After this is when the episode got completely amazing. I'm like, okay, this is one of the best episodes we've had in so long. And probably put it on my favorite episode of Awkward list. Everyone's watching a slideshow showing memories of everyone up to the prom. Lissa says Sadie would hate this and she wishes she was her. Jake says it sucks, but they all have to dig deep and show school spirit. Jenna says that's hard to do when the person she cares about most can't even be there. And Theo and Cole then show another slideshow showing everyone's most embarrassing moments. And Tamara says she's going to shut this down, but Jenna says it's not a big deal. And I like what Jenna says here because you know what? It really sums up a lot of this show. She says it shows the high school, the good and the bad, and Theo says to not be afraid of the truth. And basically, Tamara asks if nothing's sacred. Tamara shows them the bench. Lissa doesn't think it's that bad. Jake says everything has a silver lining. And Tamara says that Lissa is oddly wise. It's unsettling. And Jenna says that she's right. And Jenna walks up to everyone and says they all know that Sadie and Matty have been kicked out of graduation for drinking at prom, but who wasn't? They were all drinking. And, they can't all get rid of them, obviously. They can't all not walk. So the right thing to do is stand together and demand that they've let back in. They're unsure of Sadie, and Jenna says the slideshow proves they all mess up sometimes, but they've been through so much together. Friends and Emmys, they should graduate together. Even all the shit that Sadie's put her through, they need to move past that. They're graduating, okay? They're gonna mature, and this is just Sadie's way, and, here's the scene where I was like, this is fucking amazing. I've wanted them to touch upon this for so long. Show how Sadie's had a positive impact on people, and we see how all of Sadie's comments have actually benefited them. Like, she told this one guy to shave and put on deodorant, and now he does that, and now girls like him. And Jenna says her harsh truth might hurt sometimes, but it is their harsh truth, and if they stand together, they can't keep them all from graduating. And Val, Principal Cox, and other staff members come out. They all confess to drinking. Val says they have decided to let Matty walk, and basically, they're going to let him walk. But they have decided that, due to her volatile nature, proclivity for hate speech, and pancake abuse, they cannot grant Sadie a reprieve. So basically, Sadie's still banned. So Matty comes back excited to walk, and Matty asks about Sadie, and Jenna tells him, Jenna tells him, Matty says he's not walking without Sadie. He says she's been such a part of all their lives, and Jenna says she thought he would be proud of her, and she asks if it's her over them. And Matty says that Sadie was the one that told him to go after Jenna, and I was surprised he told her, but honestly, this is Matty we're talking about. I'm not surprised that he told Jenna, and she says, like her or hate her, she's always had his back, and he's not walking without her. So Val gets them ready for the ceremony. Tamara asks where Jenna and Matty are, and Sadie is at home. Allie sends in Jenna to talk to her. Sadie's displeased to see her and tells her to leave. Jenna says she's there because she wants her to go, so she snaps out of it, and so she needs to snap out of it and stop being such a pussy. And Sadie says she can't go. Val banished her and she doesn't care anyway. And Jenna says she cares a lot, and she does too. High school has been such a big part of making her who she is, and in a perverse way, her as well. And she says she knows she told Maddie to go find her prom. Jenna thanks her for forcing her to stick up for herself every day for the last 4 years. And this is what I wanted from Jenna and Sadie. I wanted them to reconcile, and you really see that here. Jenna's trying to make an effort. She actually does care about Sadie. Sadie's, someone who, makes hateful comments, but that's just her personality. It's something that they won't ever be able to get rid of, and they love her for that. And, this is one of those situations where you kind of have to just love a person for their flaws, and that's kind of what Jenna's doing. Despite all the shit that Sadie has put her through, she's really helped Jenna grow, because it's helped Jenna realize that she doesn't need to, worry so much about comments. And she says she would have expected the person who was so relentless about torturing her for 4 years to try a little harder to make her voice heard. Sadie tells her to get the fuck out, and obviously you're not really sure what's going to happen here. So the ceremony begins, and although Jenna has to walk by herself, she needs to face it. High school is over once and for all. Jenna then presents the bench. Then Tamara presents the bench for the class and says that learning and growing happen by making mistakes and falling on your ass. And I really like this, the way that she actually made this a good thing. People make mistakes, and this is a great example that, learning is making mistakes. And she made this small mistake and turned a problem into a solution, and I really like that. And she says together they make the asshole, and she doesn't care that it says ass of 2015. It's pretty funny. It makes sense. It's actually, I think it's pretty clever, actually, because, you sit on the bench, so I think it definitely is pretty clever. I know that Lisa said that, but I do agree with that. So Matty sits next to Jenna, and he says Sadie said he wasn't going to want to miss this. Jenna wonders what she's talking about. Sadie is in Theo and Cole's plane, gives her speech, and this was great. She talks about everything she's been through, and at the end of the day, none of this matters, and how she was upset about not being cheer captain, but now it doesn't matter because high school is over. And she comes out to walk, and she says to not forget to write your own story. And her speech was just so great. I mean, it was just such a powerful speech, her talking about how all the flaws we have and how none of that at the end of the day matters. Everything that's happened in high school, I need to put that all aside because real life is starting now. And she gives what I think is going to be one of her final year welcomes. We have her here, but that was just fantastic. I loved it, and amazing performance there. Definitely, really as for Marley Tarloff. She has been amazing all season, but especially this scene that was really satisfying. So Val tells her what doesn't matter is her that this was just the warm to the main event. So fine, get her diploma and sit down. And they then all receive their diplomas. And when Cole gets his, he takes a whole bunch. And when Jake gets his, he kisses Val. I thought that was definitely very funny. It definitely went well with their characters, and I like the way that they called them up alphabetically, because a lot of shows forget you call people up alphabetically. You know, like Glee, for example, they never understood that, but luckily Awkward did. So Jenna says she can't believe it's over. Maddie says just because they're not in school with each other every day doesn't mean um it's the end of them, and she says she knows, and he says that he needs to tell her something, and Val tells them this isn't over, this was just the warm-up. Val then takes off her she takes off her graduation gown, and underneath is a bridal dress. So yes, her and Will are going to get married on graduation, and I think that's pretty funny. So Maddie tries to talk to Jenna. He tells her his soccer training starts the day after tomorrow, so he has set up to Berkeley right after graduation night, and basically he's forced to go there. And Jenna says they only have one more day left, and that's the end of part one. So part one I thought was a really strong episode. I really loved it overall. Some amazing stuff in this episode, amazing performances. But part two, however, holy shit! I mean, I really think this episode works as one part, but as one big episode. But part two just felt so mature and had some of the best writing the show has ever had. I don't know if it's one of the best episodes the show has ever had. But I still think that it's probably some of the best writing the show has ever done. So much amazing stuff here, and really, I think set up for the future of this show very, very well. So Jenna's trying to process everything. I mean, she just got a bunch of information that, Maddie's not going to be with her. He's going to go to Berkeley. This is not really something she thought was going to happen. She knew he was going, but she thought they would at least have the summer together. Now she's realizing that they're not going to, which is realistic. I mean, when colleges typically start in the summer, that's typically what happens. They want to start in the summer. You usually have like a month and then you move in, and that usually is what happens. So I understand that Jen really didn't think about this, but, that's where usually what happens. She tries to leave, but Valdin calls her up to be the maid of honor, and Lacey is the minister she signed up online for, which I think was pretty funny. Maggie tries to apologize to Jenna. She tells him to sit down. He has to say one thing, and she says no, which they think is about the wedding. I thought that was hilarious. By the way, guys, this was probably one of the funniest episodes we've had in a while. I mean, we've had some funny episodes, but this one especially had some really funny lines. I definitely really loved it, and it didn't feel random. I will say that. A lot of what's happened this season is we've had a lot of filler scenes. There really was none of that in either of these episodes, and I love that. So Jenna says it was just bad timing, just when everything was coming together in everyone else's world, everything was unraveling in hers. Lacey then marries Val, and Will they kiss. Jenna says it was a time of new beginnings, and she had to find a way to be happy, to take back the control of her special day. And when Val throws a bouquet, it hits Jenna in the face, and basically, obviously that was pretty awkward for her. So after the ceremony, Jenna talks about how there is a weird there is a weird force that wants to keep them apart, and she tries to find Matty. And Listen congratulates Sadie on her speech, and she's upset that Sadie's pretty upset, and she's upset because Sergio wasn't there to share it with her, and, Lissa tells her it's not a big deal, and that's gonna be okay, but you can tell that Sadie still loves Sergio, and I knew that she still loved him. I knew that. But however, I have to tell you guys, my favorite stuff going on in this episode was Jake and Tamara. I thought everything going on with them was great. They were definitely, if I had to pick, favorite scenes in this episode, it would be everything going on with their plot. It just went perfectly with the idea of moving on and holding on and letting go. Every plot did, but especially Jake and Tamara, their stuff was amazing. Jake then tells Tamara to go as she collects programs, and he tells her she's taking some janitor's job away. She says she did not spend hours of work in the program committee just to have it thrown away. He asks she's saving all of them, and he says to keep one of them, throw the rest away, and don't be a hoarder. And Jake sees Tamara's bag. It's filled with old homework and 3 composition books and an A-plus book report from freshman year. So yes, Tamara is definitely holding on to things. She's holding on to her high school life, and she doesn't want to go away. I mean, I can't really think about what's going to happen when I leave high school. I mean, I'm only a junior right now. I'm not a senior, so I'm not really thinking about that. but it has to be awkward. I mean, you're in this school for 4 years. You have this environment. You have these friends. You've gotten used to being in this same building, and you're used to it. How do you get away from it? Seems very hard, and they really showed that well with Tamara. It's clear it's very hard for her to let go of this. This is something that she had a lot to do, and she was always very powerful. She always had her voice heard. She was the president. She was in cheerleading. She had multiple boyfriends, and she had Jenna as her best friend, which they don't have really any scenes together in this episode, surprisingly. But I think again it's showing that they're moving on, and I think Jenna knows that her and Tamara are probably gonna stay apart for a while, and this whole episode, they don't have a single scene together. They do have one scene, but they don't have a scene together. It's not Jenna and Tamara. It's just all of them, and I like seeing that. So Tamara says she worked hard on those and is allowed to enjoy her accomplishments. Lacey and Kevin then approach Jenna, ask her if she's excited about grad night, and Lacey tells her about the zipper roller coaster, which Kevin went on when she was pregnant with Jenna, and she says, basically that she felt sick getting on it, and Matty tells Jenna that he knows this sucks, but they have to talk about it, and she does not want to talk about it. You can tell, she doesn't want to talk about it. She wants to move on from it, and Val then tells them that their life is going to be full of challenges, but they will make it because they're strong. Will tells her they have a honeymoon to go on. She calls Matty, Jake, as they leave, and Will tells her to focus on her honeymoon. That was great with Val. Everything with Val in this episode is great. Some of the funniest stuff they have ever done with Val is in this episode. I really loved everything it did with her. So Maddie asks if they can talk, and she says they have 24 hours left, and she doesn't want to waste any of their time talking. They have an entire relationship to have tonight, and she basically decides to make a list of all the things she never got to do with him. They play a bunch of games, they are on a bunch of different rides together. It pretty much is the perfect night. It's everything she's wanted them to do. And this is going to go south, but I like seeing Jenna and Matty happy. I like seeing that. When Jenna and Matty are happy, I'm happy. So Jake then asks Tamara why she's still carrying her bag. She's still carrying her bag, to school. The school has basically been turned to an amusement park, but she's still carrying it there. And she says the last time her car broke down, and she's worried someone might steal it. And Jake basically says that no one would be interested in it. And I love her line where she asks why he has to be such a rude boy by Rihanna. That's Tamara. Only Tamara would say that. That is definitely Tamara Kaplan. That is awesome. She tells him everything is changing. Adam's back at 29 Palms, and he's getting ready to ship out. She's there. She's getting ready to ship out. And she says she was class president, and what if she never is class president of anything again? And what if this was it? And he says she has a whole life ahead of her, a whole new world to be obsessing and controlling OCD about and to excel at. And he's really not dealing with this in a mature way. You can tell that Jake is kind of still a man-child. And she then sees Theo and Cole selling red Solo cups, and they basically have one last scam that they're gonna do. They have this whole party, and they're selling red Solo cups to people with alcohol in them, obviously. Of course Theo and Cole would do this, and I think this is probably the last time we're gonna see them, because I don't think we're gonna see Theo and... If we see him again in the second half, cool, but I don't want them to focus on them a lot, because they're not main characters. They're just fun, but I don't want to see them for another season. Theo and Cole tell Jake his life is all downhill from here. Guys like him that wear leather jackets, this is as good as it ever gets, and they tell him this truly is it, and I kind of see their point here. I mean, even though they're joking around, they do have a point. I mean, when you are popular in high school, you really get a rude awakening when you go out there. Think of someone who's like really popular, gets all the girls, has all these friends, maybe has been the quarterback of their team, or even has been in like a musical and has been the lead of it. They most likely are going to get a rude awakening in college. And it's weird to go from a senior to a freshman. It definitely is, and you can definitely see that transition from them here. And Jake is really pissed because he really doesn't know what he's going to do with his life, yes, but he's hoping for the best, and you can really see that. So Alyssa then talks to Sadie how much she loves cotton candy, and Sadie tells her to shut the fuck up. Alyssa shows her that Sergio is there, and he says he's trying to build a business, and obviously Sadie's not happy to see him. She doesn't want to see him there. But he says that he hopes she wanted to see him, and she said he thought it was wrong that this was a high school function. He's not invited. Sergio says to Lissa that he thought Sadie would apologize, and Lissa tells him to wait there. And basically, Jenna and Matty sits, and she keeps checking things off of the to-do list, and he says she's very organized. Val then takes food away from them, and again, she keeps coming up in this episode to give Jenna advice about college, and is the funniest shit you can imagine, because every time she comes up, Will's just like, get away from her, let her move on with her life, and I mean, I kind of feel bad for Val because obviously this was someone that she talked to a lot, and now she knows she's not going to be able to talk to her a lot. So I think Val just wants to make every moment count and, wants to give her the best, as much advice as she can. But obviously it's not a good time. So Lissa then tells Sadie that Sergio wants to apologize and he's really hurting. She asks why he didn't just call her. And Lissa says she's just so mean, and she says she won't even let her sit with her on the scariest ride there. One of the funniest lines Lissa has had in a while, definitely. She's had some very funny lines, but that's one of the funniest, definitely. Jenna and Matty the makeouts at the best makeout spots in school. Jenna says that it's time for the drive-in movie, and she gives him suggestions for a movie, and he says that they need to talk about this just a little, even though she doesn't want to. They need to face their future. They have to, and he says it's on his list, and Jenna says to ask where they go from there, and if he wants to break up, and he says he doesn't want to do that since they just got back together, and she says they should just stay together on opposite sides of the country. But I like that they realize that this is not going to be possible. They have they can only see each other a few times a year, so they can afford plane tickets, and he says planes suck. He says they could suck, and she says that they should. They could Skype, and she says they should. She says it was a lot less complicated when she didn't know she was in love, and he agrees. But he says he always knew, and she tells him that, he sucks, and I thought that was basically, I really like that scene between them, definitely. You can tell they're in a very difficult position. They don't really know what to do. So Tamara tells Jake that Theo and Cole are just vicious, and who cares what they think, and basically, he says they look down on him because he has a Letterman jacket, and she asks if he has attachment to something from his past, and he says, what if he's not going off to college? They don't have to give an opinion about him. Someone then throws up on his jacket, and this is the last straw for Jake. He doesn't know what to do with his jacket. He decides to just throw it in the dumpster, and she says it's just a jacket. He says it was, and it's not who he is. And she says he's overreacting to a dumb comment, and he says high school has left the building. And he asks if it's annoying as carrying a bag at old programs, and she took a pom-pom, and again, you can tell that Tamara's holding on to things, and she says this is not who she is. She throws all of it into the dumpster, and this was great. You can tell that they're trying to close out their life. They just don't want anything to do with high school anymore. So Sergio asks Sadie what she wants. Sadie says he was hurting and wanted to tell her something. Sergio says she said the same about her, about him, and she says it's technically true. They both have something they want to say to the other. Even if they don't want to say it, they walk away, and we realize that Lissa's trying to do something like the Parent Trap, which I thought was pretty funny. But Sergio says that he missed her rudeness, and at first it seems like it's not going to work, but then Sergio says how he missed her rudeness, and they kiss, and Lissa then finds a random guy, makes out with him, and Tamara then picks up the red cup and says it symbolizes her quest for popularity, her desperate need to fit in, and she throws it away. Tamara says she's glad they're together, and she says there's no one better to close out her high school with. They almost kiss. I was like, holy shit, are they about to get back together? But hug, which I'm happy about, because the thing with Tamara and Jake is I'm happy. If they were to get back together, that'd be awesome, because obviously Jake would be wherever and Tamara would be in college. It could work, but I don't want them to do that yet. I think they need to wait till the end of this show, then you can get them together, because I do want them to get back together eventually. I think, Jake and Tamara are perfect for each other, and I think they should be together in the long run. And you definitely see on this episode how great Jake is with Tamara. But at this particular point, it's just not the right time to do that, because their lives are going on. They have lives. They need to focus on that rather than a relationship. And Jenna and Matty asks if they're interrupting something. Tamara says it's just the life-altering conclusions of who she is and the bold choices she has made to celebrate those conclusions. And Jake says she dropped a bunch of her old shit. And Sadie says to throw Jenna in there. Matty says not the best time. Sadie says to lighten up. She says they're out of the shithole and they have the entire summer to do whatever they want. And Jenna goes away, and she says it didn't feel as good as she thought it would. Jenna tells Matty that there's no point. He's gone in the morning. Maybe if they would have had a summer, it's just the way things are. They've always had bad timing, and this time it's no one's fault, but maybe it would be easier for the both of them if they broke up. He goes away as she cries, and It seems like it's gonna be the ending, but then we see the ending of this episode, which I think was kind of cheesy, but I did like it overall. It was definitely better handled than it was last week. Jenna says she spent the rest of the night alone. She says all she needed was for Matty to knock at the door, tells her that he wasn't leaving, and Val then surprises her, gives her all the advice left. She says she's there for like 4 hours, and basically Val then says goodbye to her and says to have a good life. And Jenna says it had taken 4 years, but something Val had said had actually resonated, and that is trust your heart because every moment counts. And finally, we get that scene. If you remember in that second promo, that was the first scene, the second promo. We finally get that here, and I don't know why they waited. Why they showed that scene in the promo. I don't think they should have, but I think that really goes with what Val is saying, that you need to trust your heart and every moment counts, and Jenna needs to do that. She needs to listen to her heart. So Jenna thanks her. Matty calls Jenna as his mom, asks if he has everything. He says he needs to take care of something first, but Jenna is already driven to see him, so basically she says they were wrong. They can make this work. She has no clue how, and he has no clue how, but it's okay to be completely clueless. He asks what if she says life is just a series of moments, and she wants to spend as many as she can with him. He kisses her and says there aren't many moments left. She says they'll have to find a way to squeeze out a few more. And I like what they do here. They basically try to make some stops along the way to Berkeley, like have fun in the car. They stop for traffic. They get gas all the time. They just do whatever they can to stay together because they know they're not probably going to see each other for a very long time and just want to make sure that they can stay together. Even though they always say long distance relationships don't work, they're trying to make it work, and I like seeing that. She says Matty and her still have a lot to figure out, but they knew that somehow they jumped through too many hoops to let distance come between them. They wouldn't let it because deep down they knew love would conquer all. And then the last line of the episode that was completely unnecessary when she says, but that's not what happened. I get that they're setting up the second half of the season, but I thought the line was completely unnecessary. But overall, guys, really satisfying finale. I really enjoyed this finale overall, and it really set up for what the second half of the season is going to be. You can already tell it's going to be a very different kind of show. But I really like where they're hanging with this. Matty and Jenna seem like they're not going to stay together. I'm thinking that Matty's probably going to fall in love with someone else. Jenna falls in love with someone else. One of them are going to fall in love with someone else. And I think eventually they will get back together, but right now they just can't stay together no matter what they want to do. They just can't right now. Jake and Tamara, I really love their stuff in this episode. I hope they get back together by the end of the show because they're great. I really hope something happens between them. Sergio and Sadie, they're definitely back together. We'll have to see what happens with that. Also, where do you think Jake's gonna go? Because obviously Jake really doesn't have any direction right now, so we'll have to see what happens with that. Jen and Tamara, I really feel like out of all the relationships, they're going to be the most distant. I mean, notice they didn't have a single scene really of just being friends in this episode. I think they're just realizing that they have to move on, that they're not going to be as close as they are right now. Even though they want to be, they can't be. It's just that's not how the way things are going to go, and it's definitely going to be very interesting. I don't really know what the second half of the season is going to be like. I do know that this most likely is the final season, and that after that second half, we're done with this show. I don't want them to ruin it. I really don't. I think that it is going to work. I think there's a part of me that says I really do want this to work, but I never really thought of Awkward as a show that continues beyond high school. But the way they set things up, I want to see what happens. I do want to see what happens. I hope they don't change it, because this episode was so good, I really don't want them to ruin it. Let's talk about the season overall, because no, this has not been the strongest season of Awkward. I'll tell you guys the biggest problem with this season. The half hour, that's the problem. The fact this episode was an hour, that's why it was so satisfying, because it was an hour long and they were able to do a lot more than they usually could. When you have a half an hour, it really feels very rushed, and that was a problem with a lot of the episodes this season. Some of the episodes just didn't work as well as I wanted them to because they felt very rushed, and there was a lot of filler into them. And because I'm stretching out this season, this arc so much of them being seniors, we really didn't, it was satisfying in the end, but there were a lot of bumpy steps along the way. Like the prom episodes, I'll probably never remember, honestly, guys. I'm not really going to remember them. But then, much you guys saw this episode, I thought this was an amazing finale. What do you think about the future of this show? Are you looking forward to it? I definitely will be checking it out because I really love this finale overall. I think it's definitely one of the best episodes they've done in a very long time. And we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for Flesh and Bone, and which will be for Flesh and Bone. I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.